Hello and welcome. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to slow things right down for a really focused, one-on-one vocabulary lesson. The whole idea is to be patient and to make sure you walk away understanding every single word deeply and clearly.
So this is basically our mission statement for today. Our entire session is built around this one instruction. We're going to be patient, and we're going to explain every little detail step by step. So why don't you get comfortable, and let's go ahead and begin.
All right, let's start with our first word, comply. In a nutshell, this just means to obey a rule or follow an order. Now, the really important thing to remember here is the little word that almost always comes right after it, with. You comply with a request. You comply with the law. So in the example, all visitors must comply with the safety regulations. It just means everyone has to follow the rules. It's all about cooperation.
Okay, sticking with that theme of rules, let's look at 3 connected verbs that show a whole process. First, a government can impose a new tax. That means they're creating it and forcing it on people. Then the police will enforce that rule, which means they make sure everyone actually complies with it. And if that rule becomes a mandate, well, now it's an official requirement, no ifs, ands, or buts. So think of it this way. Impose is the creation, enforce is the action, and mandate is the official stamp of approval.
Next up, we have adhere, which is a great word because it has this cool double meaning. Physically, it means to stick to something, like an adhesive on tape, right? But we also use it for ideas. When you adhere to a plan or the terms of a contract, you're sticking to it. You're following it exactly. The whole word family, like adherent or adherence, is all about that core idea of sticking with it. Let's explore 3 words that show different levels of effort. You might obtain a driver's license. That's the simple act of getting it. But you achieve a university degree. That takes years of hard work. And the highest level here? That's when you gain mastery of a skill, like playing the piano. That means you've become a real expert through tons of dedicated practice. Each word is a step up in commitment. Okay, now for a very powerful word, exploit. It's so important to know that this word almost always has a strong negative meaning. It doesn't just mean to use something. It means to use someone or something unfairly for your own benefit. The classic example is a company exploiting its workers. That means paying them too little, making them work too long. You get the idea. Next, we have explode. And yeah, we all know its literal meaning, right? A bomb bursting. But what's really cool about this word is how we use it metaphorically. We talk about these as collocations, words that just sound right together. For example, a person can explode with anger, or a new video can explode in popularity. It's just a fantastic word for describing any kind of sudden, dramatic increase. All right, this next part is extremely important for any language learner. Sometimes you'll find words that might sound a little bit alike, but their meanings are worlds apart. First, we need to address the word rape. This is a very serious legal term for a terrible crime of sexual violence. It's a word that carries a lot of weight, so it must be used with care. Now, completely 100% unrelated is the word rip. This is just a simple physical action, to tear something like when you rip a piece of paper. The 2 meanings are entirely separate. Our next word is stab. This is a verb that describes a very specific and violent action. It means to push a sharp, pointed object, like a knife, into something or someone. It's a very direct and descriptive word. For instance, in a news report, you might read that someone was arrested for attempting to stab another person. Okay, let's shift gears to a much more common everyday word, damp. Now, damp doesn't mean soaking wet. It just means slightly wet. And, it often has a kind of unpleasant feeling to it. Think about it. Clothes that didn't quite dry in the machine are damp. A basement wall can feel damp. You can even say a room smells damp. It's a perfect word for that specific in-between state. Have you ever pretended to be someone else? Well, English has a few specific words for that. If you mimic someone, you're just copying their voice or the way they walk, usually just for fun. If you impersonate them, that's a bit more serious. You're actually trying to make people believe you are that person, like an Elvis impersonator. But if you pose as someone, like a police officer, well, that usually implies you're doing it for a dishonest, maybe even illegal reason. The real difference is the why behind the pretending. Here we've got a classic pair of opposites. To attract means to pull something or someone closer. The smell of fresh bread might attract you to a bakery. The exact opposite is to repel, which means to push away. A really bad smell will definitely repel you. Now, a much stronger version of attract is captivate. If a great movie captivates you, it doesn't just pull you in, it holds all of your attention. So let's look at 2 adverbs that describe how you do something. If you do something willingly, it just means you agree to do it. You have no problem with it, you're willing. But if you do it cheerfully, you're doing more than just agreeing. You're doing it with a smile, with obvious happiness. So you could say that cheerfully is basically willingly plus a big dose of positivity. All right, let's learn how to tell 2 types of troublemakers apart. A vandal is someone who damages property. Think spray painting a wall or breaking a window. A hooligan, on the other hand, is usually part of a rowdy group causing trouble for people in public, like shouting or fighting at a sports game. So, the simple way to remember it is, a vandal damages things and a hooligan bothers people. Here's a perfect example of a common word that can have very different meanings: strike. We often think of it as meaning to hit someone or something, right? But look at this sentence. When a union decides to strike, it means all the workers are going to stop working as a form of organized protest. It's a really powerful tool they use to demand better pay or safer conditions. Now, here's a tricky one you've got to be careful with: faculty. And that's because it has 2 completely different meanings. First, at a college or university, the faculty means all of the teachers. But a faculty can also be a natural ability that you have, like the faculty of sight or the faculty of hearing. So in the example sentence, when it says he lost the faculty of speech, it just means he lost his ability to speak. Let's look at a few words that describe different levels of emotional distance. On one end, you have objective and impersonal. These are often good things. You want a judge or a scientist to be objective. Then, in the middle, you have indifferent. This is more negative. It means you just don't care one way or the other. And at the far end of the spectrum, you have cold, which describes someone who is actively unfriendly and just lacks that human warmth. This secret to understanding these next few words is the prefix counter. All counter means is against. So a counterattack is exactly what it sounds like: an attack you make against an enemy who just attacked you. Retaliation is a little broader. It's any action you take against someone for something bad they did to you. It's kind of like revenge. And a counter vote is very specific. It's a vote made against another vote, usually in a formal meeting. All right, let's do a simple one. A physical object, a knob. A knob is just a specific kind of handle. It's usually round, and you almost always turn it to make something work. The common examples make it perfectly clear, right? You turn a doorknob to open a door, and you turn a volume knob to turn your music up or down. Easy. Our next term is photography. Pretty straightforward. It's simply the art or the process of taking pictures with a camera. And the word family is as simple as it gets. The person who does photography is a photographer. So if she's studying photography, it means she wants to become a photographer. All right, for our final slide, let's look at 4 verbs that are all about causing a reaction. To irritate someone is to kind of annoy them a little bit, but to provoke them, that's much stronger. That means you're trying to make them angry on purpose. On a more positive note, you can stimulate the economy or stimulate a plant's growth, which means you're encouraging it to become active. And finally, to trigger something is to be the immediate cause that makes it happen suddenly, like a single spark that triggers a huge fire. And just like that, our patient lesson comes to a close. We've looked at meanings, at context, at all the little differences that make English so interesting. So I'll leave you with this question. Which of these new words are you going to try to use first? Thank you so much for learning with me today.